For the past couple of months, I've been focused on expanding my material language, and lately that's led me to experiment with watercolor. So trying to loosen my hand, explore different materials, and approach painting in a more playful way. Before starting the final piece, I spent some time in my sketchbook studying the composition and using it as a way to experiment more freely. The paper in this particular sketchbook is quite thin and not really suitable for watercolor, which I already knew before I began. But once it dries, the paper tends to flatten out again, especially if I keep the sketchbook closed and let the weight of the pages press it down. I also actually like the way the slight waviness of the paper guides the water around. It creates these little movements that really suit the sense of fluidity I'm always looking for in my work. Once that was dry, I wanted to build on it a little more by adding extra shades and movement with colored pencils. I used Caran d'Ache Luminance, Stabilo Carbonatello, and some Polycolor pencils by Koh-i-Noor. I could have left it as a simple watercolor sketch, but because my usual practice often involves acrylics and oil pastels, my paintings tend to have a much more fuller and more finished feel. I think I'm still not very used to work that feels too clean or minimal, and actually I ended up having that same hesitation with the final painting too, which you'll see later on. For the larger piece, I kept a similar color palette, but I wanted to push the saturation a little more and bring out the vibration of the colors. I was also thinking a lot about one of my previous paintings, Sitting with Orchid, which has become one of my favorite recent works, especially because of its colors. With watercolor, because the medium is so fluid and light, it's much easier to achieve that bright, luminous quality, especially when working with just a few layers. Lately, that's something I've been really drawn to, moving towards a lighter palette now that winter is over and making space for color combinations that feel more joyful and more playful. In my work, I like to stay somewhere between naturalistic color and something more intuitive. There is always a link to reality, but I also leave room for color to be used more freely. The figures, for example, are never painted in natural skin tones. I always seem to return to teals and blues, and the same happens with other elements in the scene. The table in this painting is based on the brown table in our kitchen, but here it became red for no particular reason other than that I liked where it led the composition. I love this combination of red, turquoise, and mustard. Painting really gives you a sense of how colors work together, and that kind of sensitivity can also spill into other parts of life as well. I left this painting aside for a couple of days and kept coming back to it, wondering whether I should add a few extra touches in different mediums or keep it entirely in watercolor. In the end, I felt it needed more. I started by adding some marks with colored pencil, which gave me those thin and delicate lines that I really like. They add movement, but in a very gentle way. Then I finished it with a few touches of oil pastel just to help bring everything together. Overall, I really love the kinds of layers you can build this way. At the same time, I'd like to challenge myself to make a few watercolor paintings, and perhaps smaller ones, using only watercolor, so without adding anything else on top. I'd like to see whether I can resist my urge to push the work further and not ending up giving it that more finished look with deeper shadows and blurry velvety pastel touches and all those extra marks.